Welcome back to Here and Hereafter. And today I have a special guest because she's been my friend for so many years. And her name is Jenabeth Rush. She is, now I don't want to get it wrong, she is a therapist, but she's a spiritual psychotherapist. Jenabeth, you and I had a pleasure when I had to cancel once on you of having lunch, and it was so nice. And we did cover a lot of ground. As you had abilities as a young kid, and so many of these people that I talked to did, but they froze up because A, you don't want to sound crazy, or B, your parents don't believe you, don't talk like that again. But you've had experiences from a very young age that you didn't close, or you did tell me you closed off for a while.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about, a little bit of that?
Well, okay, so the beginning of my journey, I would say I was about 4 or 5 years old, and I was sick, very sick as a young child. And the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, and I couldn't keep any food down, so I had like a distended stomach, and I was very sickly. And so I had some kind of infection in my lungs. And my mom was downstairs 2 stories down, and I woke up one night and I was choking on my own vomit, and I had a near-death experience where I left my body, and I was watching my body from above, and there was a tall figure in the corner of my room, and I just had this overwhelming sense of peace. I wasn't scared, but I saw this very tall, 7-foot high robed figure that made me feel so peaceful. And then 2 stories down, my mom's watching Johnny Carson, and she hears this voice in her head say, "Go upstairs and see Bethy." And she came up and I was turning green, and so she saved me. And I said, "Mommy, that's okay. I was floating on the ceiling. I saw you. I was okay." And fast forward to when I became a young teenager, I became very intuitive, even more psychic. And a little bit further from that, I was known in high school, Blackie the Witch Girl was my nickname, and I'm still in black. And the guidance counselors would pull me out of class and say, "This kid is missing. We don't know where he is, she is. Can you help us figure this out?" And so I started to really dig deep into the esoteric, psychic and understanding the brain and all that, just even at a young age. And then at 16 to 18, 19 years old, I was introduced and became friends with Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are known paranormal investigators.
Famous paranormal, yeah.
And I did go on an investigation with them, but I've been to their house and I would go to eat with them and that type of thing. However, the investigation I went, I did not have any tools for protection.
Too young, maybe?
Too
because
young.
I had another person that knew the Warrens that said he was only 18.
Yeah.
And while they wanted to develop it, they don't want you to have terrible experiences. Same thing with him.
Yeah.
Same exact thing with him.
Yeah.
And they recognized that. So you had to leave that particular place because it's very scary?
It was in Massachusetts, and I stayed overnight, and that experience made me sort of shut down. And
I would say, yeah.
Yeah, and then fast forward, my path has always been a healing path, always. And so I've always...
She says that I met her as a massage therapist when she was a little girl, tiny little person. And then she went on to do massage therapy, and then you went on to do Reiki, and it's all the healing stuff, and then psychology or psychological counseling. So Jenabeth's path has always been a healing nature, and just step. She took it one step at a time. But when I went to her, it was right after my daughter committed suicide. She was very peaceful. She was very calm. She gave me a sense of peace, I guess, that I had been struggling with. But then, so she's a special person. It wasn't a massage. It was an experience. I gotta say that. I don't think I ever said that to you. I don't think I ever told you because I was so devastated at the time. I couldn't talk about it much to anybody. But so she went from massage to counseling. Now she is a licensed, certified psychological
Psychotherapist.
psychotherapist.
Yes.
I can't keep track of all
That's
these big
okay.
words.
It's okay.
And you've had quite a trajectory. But so when I'm going to ask you, did you fully accept it? I'm asking you that because I was one of those who shut it off because I got scared. I remember this voice talking to me, and it wasn't my own. You asked me that.
Yeah.
Was it your own? I said, no, it was a neutral or male voice, not my own, not female. And it would warn me of things, and it was always right. But one day it came through so clear. I said, what's your name? You're talking to me, and I don't know what your name is. And it said, Fanuel. And I said, at that moment, stop, because I got an answer. I wasn't expecting, stop, you're scaring me. And it did leave for some period of time. And then I had to look that up, and there is a Fanuel in the Bible. I never knew that. I raised Catholic all those years, 12 years of Catholic school. You talk about Michael, Gabriel, Raphael.
Yeah.
Never heard of Fanuel, But anyway, so then you say, I accept, because if it's talking to me, it's here for a reason. I accept. You accepted yours when you got into your 20s. Would you say into your 20s?
I would say that I accepted it when I was a teenager, but I, accepted my gifts as far as my psychic and my healing abilities, but not going to do paranormal investigations.
Right.
And then fast forward through my healing process with all the schooling I did. I did extensive training with 2 different shamans, and I've done digging deep into all the esoteric healing studies. And Carl Jung, who is one of the founders of psychology, he was very big in the idea that we only use 5% of our conscious brain, and 95% of our subconscious is where we really need to dig into.
Right.
And so meditation is huge in order to contact that part of you that is the psychic, that deep.
Can you imagine if we could open our minds and use 50%? We would be able to lift rockets into the air. I mean, it's a very powerful thing. You also indicated to me, we're not going to talk about it, but that a lot of people who end up having psychic abilities have also experienced trauma.
Yes.
In their younger lives. And this might be a way of protecting yourself, calling on your inner self for strength. And you experience trauma, I experienced trauma.
Right.
And does that leave you more open, or does it say you start to search for some other answers?
Well, what trauma does to your brain, it gives us extra spidey senses. So when you're growing up and you've had childhood trauma, alcoholism, any kind of trauma, what it does is it makes you more hypervigilant and more aware, and you're reading the room, and you're reading people's energies, you're reading their affect of their face.
You're absolutely
you're
right.
reading things, so you pick up on a lot more than someone who's always been in a safe space.
Yeah, because if you're afraid, you do have to read the room. I mean, I had a father who you walked on eggshells with. You never knew what was going to set him off. So in the end, some of my brothers rebelled by doing what they wanted. I rebelled by becoming manipulative. Like, don't tell them exactly what I, you know what I mean? Like working around it.
Yeah.
And I wished I had how to do that. But I read the room. I could feel the tension.
That's so many people are empathic, and that is from their upbringing and how they had to walk on eggshells, and they had to read the room. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and it's sad for kids, but you know what? It gave me this ability, or it gave me the ability to accept that I have an ability and not be afraid of it after a sudden. I was afraid. As a matter of fact, I think I told you, joking around, that I was looking for somebody who wanted to talk about people hearing voices in their head. So I saw a sign, and I'm like, tore one of those little paper things off, and I called this person, and I said, I have a TV show. I'd like you to, maybe talk or bring a couple people in, because I'm interested in that, because I hear them. And she said, I work with schizophrenics. And I said, honey, not everybody who hears voices is schizophrenic. You know what I mean? But I said, that bombed out. Let's just put the phone down and forget that. I bombed on that one.
Well, I always tell people we all are basically schizophrenic in a way, where we do have different parts of us that's parts therapy that come into our brain, right?
Oh, yeah, I guess, she wasn't too far wrong. I was like, no, not that kind of voices. But you had gone on investigations as the psychic medium or with somebody else for a while, and you had a bad experience in a house that had a poltergeist, and it was local, it was Suffield.
Yes.
Okay, and you want to talk about that without naming names or
Yep.
anything? You can talk about that a little bit?
Suffield, Connecticut. I was contacted by someone who you would never imagine would believe, or trucker guys that lived in this house.
Yeah.
And this one person was renting from this other guy, and there were three men in this house, and they were having poltergeist activity. Doors were slamming, cans were moving across the table. They were hearing voices. They were smelling perfume. All kinds of things happening. So the first thing I do when I do an investigation is I go and I look up the history of the house, and it was in the 1800s. And fast forward, drove by the house and seeing I didn't go in it, but went to the library, looked up the information, and come to find out in that house in the 1800s, it was a boarding house for this farm. It was a tobacco farm. And there was a gentleman and his wife and their 7 children, and there were other boarders there. And the father came home and in front of the children and bludgeoned his wife to death with a hammer, sat down, smoked a cigarette, walked down the street and said, "I just killed my wife and I'm okay."
And for what? Just do you think
He thought she was cheating.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So
And then left them with 7 kids.
7 children, and then he ended up in Wethersfield Jail, which is now the DMV,
Yeah, right.
right? And so when I went to do the investigation with the equipment and that type of thing, we can pick up on it's a camera called an SLS camera, which you can actually pick up on the energy. And you could see that there was actually a reenactment of what was going on with one spirit attacking another spirit, and there was knocking and there was laughter and all kinds of crazy
Now
things.
that wasn't, if you say it's a reenactment, that wasn't a residual haunting. Apparently,
Right.
it was because of the movement. It was something that possessed the house. It's
Right.
not like, oh, I'm just seeing history repeat itself.
Right.
This was something actually that glommed on because it was such an evil act.
Yes, well, residual is, say I've been investigating a restaurant and you could see residual of a spirit wiping a table, but it's just energy.
Yeah.
And you can actually talk and say, if you can hear me, raise your right hand. And they won't.
don't interact,
There's
it's
no,
residual,
but
right.
if it's not, and they will actually respond to you. In this particular case, when we were calling out the spirit and saying, we know what's going on here, violence is not allowed here. There was loud pounding, like elephant pounding on the
good.
walls, responding to us. And but the difference between what I do and what other paranormal investigators do is that I heal both. I call it healing both sides of the veil. So not only do I work with helping to heal the spirits that want to move on, or help them, or even if there's a negative spirit, but also the people that live in the homes or the buildings to kind of help them. And I do eclectic type of healing where I use all kinds of different things to cleanse that house and bless that house, because it is energy, and help people sleep at night, because sometimes they can't sleep because they're
first of
having
all,
experiences.
even though I have a gift, I don't want to see or hear anybody else in my house,
Yeah.
It's my house. I did, unfortunately, see somebody, my husband had told me, after my daughter died, we got a bunch of weird things going on, and I went to a psychic, because I said, this is not normal, and I'm not crazy. So, and I think that's what a lot of people think, I'm not crazy, I'm not crazy, I'm not crazy. You have to talk yourself down. And so, no, I wasn't crazy based on what she told me, but one day I remember, and I didn't like it, and it didn't happen again. I didn't like it. I was holding a cat, I might have told you, and I needed its nails clipped, and it was a bugger to hold. And so my husband was on the couch in the den. So I went in the kitchen, got the cat, got the nail clippers, and I said to him as I was leaving, you stay right here. I need help. I'll get a towel. You have to hold the little bugger. And I walked back, and as I was walking back, I saw somebody, his height, his size, his weight, walking into my bedroom. But it was just dark. It was darker than the dark in the hallway. That's the only way I can explain it. And I said, hey. And the figure actually went like, there you can see me. And I said, hey, I told you I needed help. Why are you leaving? And he said, I'm where you left me. I was like, okay. And then the big joke with him is, God, you even nag the dead.
That's what you heard?
That's what he said to me. God, you even nagged the dead. Because I said, I told you I wanted you to help me. He's like, I'm right here. And the figure went, it's like, took off and left. So you also are continually being educated on different, I don't want to say therapies, modalities,
healing modalities,
like
yeah.
modalities. So when you were with the shamans, where did you practice with them, or where did you pick up?
I studied for a week with this gentleman, Alberto Villaldo, who's very, very famous. Was able to spend a whole week with him, and he looked just like my father, which was really bizarre. Yeah,
that would have been hard.
And I studied with him and another Peruvian shaman at a different time at Kripalu Institute, and then doing my own type of work and learning and just reading and that.
You've
type
been
of
to
training.
Lily Dale. I looked that up after you talked to me. That's
Yes.
a fascinating place,
That's
Lily
another
Dale. So you've been up there.
Training that I did, spiritual insight training.
Okay.
And so I worked with, and I flew in this little tiny airplane all the way up near Niagara Falls.
Yeah, it's up there. It's
And did
Rochester,
this
yeah.
extensive
Yeah.
several days of training,
Yeah.
tapping into your own psychic abilities, your own mediumship, how to do that, certain types of tools for meditation. The whole thing about what I believe in, and I know for a fact, is that we are all intuitive and we all have that psychic ability. And it's just like if you and I said, Connie, let's go work out every day for 6 weeks. Then we'd be more buff. But if I said, let's go to McDonald's and let's not do that,
Right.
we wouldn't develop that muscle.
Right.
So it's really a training and a muscle that we all have that ability, and that some of us really want to tap into that, and some of us think, I got to go to a medium or a psychic. Well, we all have that ability. I specialize in grief and trauma, and a lot of time the people that come to me that have children or loved ones that have passed, I am helping them tap into their own ability to talk to their loved ones or contact them. I'm very excited because I'm going to be the only one in Connecticut that is doing induced after-death communication.
And you're going to be running. You want to talk a little bit? You're going to be running classes on that. You'll be training. You'll be doing training other people.
Well, I won't be training other people. I will be offering that as a type of therapy.
Okay.
It's a type of therapy where you have to already have been trained in
other
therapies,
gotcha,
which is called EMDR. It's a trauma therapy. So what they're finding, and so what the therapy will be is that I'm going to help someone else really tap into and help them in their grieving process to really still have a relationship with their loved ones that have passed. And I'm very excited about that. But I will be doing some, spiritual training, like helping people in different aspects,
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, your trajectory is interesting to me because it's just like you step, put one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. And did you ever think when you started that you were going to be, or did you always have knowledge that I'm going to help people and I'm going to do it this way? I'm going to open myself up to whatever comes and I'm going to help people because you have done a lot of studying and a lot. I mean, that's a lifetime commitment is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You haven't stopped learning. You haven't stopped studying. You haven't stopped, so that's impressive. That's impressive because a lot of people will just not put the energy into it, like you're saying.
It's a path. It's totally a path. Even in my high school yearbook, I said I wanted to get a doctorate in parapsychology.
Yeah. Well,
which is the study of the paranormal.
Right.
And here I am
Here
doing
you are.
exactly what
Right.
That's
so that
always,
woohoo witchy woman in your high school yearbook, that was right
it's always
on.
been
A lot
in
of
my
us get that
blood,
right. Like
but-
she's the witchiest woman I know. Have you ever, aside from the investigation with the Warrens, you being way too young, 16, but they saw something in you, so that's why you were there. Have you ever had an incident that has scared you? And how do you, when you leave these places, make sure that nothing's attached to you? That's like, okay, lady, you chased me out of that house. I'm coming home with you.
Yeah, that
would
has happened to me.
Okay, that would freak me out. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I've had a couple of attacks in my lifetime. The poltergeist in the house in Suffield. We cleansed it, and one of the gentlemen had an attack where he just couldn't move and felt this pressure in the middle of the night. And I was up in Lake George, and it happened to me. But I have specific training, like shamanic and, you know, different kinds of training to protect myself. And I do it every single day.
I would,
Every day.
I would have to say you would have to.
Whatever I'm doing before I even start doing my practice
Yeah.
with my patients,
Yeah.
I just make sure. And I always say, only for my best and highest good is allowed to be with me. And that's really important because you can want something, but you need to say only for my best and highest good.
Right.
It's just like one of the things. But there's lots of specific shamanic techniques that I use and use it every single day to protect myself and also to help other people heal. When I've done some of these home investigations, I find that the people need to do ceremony with me as well. So I do what I call calling the 4 directions and the 4 archangels and doing a ceremony with them together to help them heal because their energy is exacerbating what's happening in the building or the place.
Because it's sucking off because you always hear, oh, it got cold. Well, they're trying to, of course it's cold. They don't have body heat.
Right, and same with land. You know, even the land needs to be healed. You think of the history of people's land, and you know that needs to be cleansed and healed. But we all have that capability. Yeah.
If I wish I had talked to you when all this had happened to me, but again, after my daughter's death, we lived in Windsor. We lived in Windsor at the time, and so many oddball things happened, and it forced me to go somewhere because I thought I was losing my mind out of grief. But then we went up to Suffield, that's where we live now. And one day I had these books on angels and stuff like that, the afterlife. And I went upstairs, and we didn't use the upstairs. It was like a library. If you wanted to escape, you go upstairs with just myself and my husband. And I went upstairs just to vacuum a little bit and dust. And I saw these 3 books out of the bookshelf, but they were like bump, bump, bump. Why are they stacked like that? Hey, Lou, were you up here looking? No. So I picked them up. They were all about angels in the afterlife or grief and this, that, and the other thing. I said, that's odd. You know, they were specific, targeted books. So I put them back at the bookshelf. Say, I don't know what you're trying to tell me, whoever is here, because the same crap happened up at my house. And my husband kept saying, it's not the houses that are haunted. It's us. It's following us, you know. So I got to the point it didn't bother me any longer. But the next time I went upstairs, he said to me, you haven't been upstairs in a while. He said, how are the books doing? Kidding around. And the upstairs door was closed. My cats didn't get in there. I didn't want them putting hair on everything. There was no reason they had to get in that room, right? So I opened the door and I said, oh, kiss my butt goodbye. It was like you didn't listen. There was an explosion out of the bookcase that threw books around the corner from the bookcase on a couch I had. Like, you didn't get it the first time? Here, see if you can get it now. So you have to say, you're right, that, you know, there's something there. It's not me. I mean, nobody was in that room. Last time I was in that room, I closed the door. But did you ever get frightened, aside from the time you were 16 years old, by seeing what you've seen or heard, or does it like stay in your head a little bit sometimes coming home?
Some of the things that I've experienced psychically have been mind-blowing, but I'm not so frightened as to, because I know how to protect myself. And I do believe there are good and bad people in this side of the veil, and they're good, and if someone is not a good spirit here, they're not going to be good on the other side, or they need to do a lot of healing.
Work. What do you? I always wondered why people would stay. Like, to me, if you have a chance to get out of the earth realm, and I guess that'll never be answered for me, go to the light. What makes people stay and just stick around and torture people here on earth? Are they afraid of going to hell? Is that, you know? Like, you know, some of these, they're not just residual. They're actually hauntings over many, many years. Why are you here? You have anything better to do in the afterlife? I often wonder, you know?
Well, it's just like in psychotherapy when people are really stuck. They're stuck in their grief. They're stuck in their trauma. They don't know how to move and heal. And I believe it's the same way when they become spirit. There was one case when this one gentleman spirit had severe PTSD trauma and was abusive towards his wife, and was showing him, the spirit was showing itself in this house for this with this young gentleman, and it was like he needed me. I went in and I found and picked up psychically, like he felt so guilty that he couldn't let go, and so I knew that I had to talk to him and help him understand that he had like trauma, and that and to be forgiven. And the message I got, which was fantastic, was I needed to find his wife's grave and bring daisies to her grave. So, and for forgiveness. And so I'm driving, I found her gravesite, and he happened to be right next to her. And as I'm driving I'm late. I'm going to go there, and I'm like, where am I going to get daisies? So in my head, I'm like, I'm going to stop at the gas station, and I get this message in my head, what are you doing? There's no daisies at a gas station. But I stopped there anyways, and he's like, no, we don't have any. And then I stopped at a grocery store, and there's this beautiful bouquet of daisies. Like, it's rare, multicolored daisies.
Yeah.
So I brought the daisies and played some music and sort of like helped them heal. Like, it was just like some of us still need help even on the other side, if that makes sense.
No, I can understand that, because I would imagine, my theory was always, if you're a really truly terrible person, but a lot of people have guilt about what they did. They're not terrible people. They're damaged people.
Yes.
That they would get stuck. That was my thought. And he maybe couldn't find his wife where he was, and
Right.
she was in a different place. So no, that's a beautiful thing. And I hope that he felt secure. I always feel when I watch these shows and you hear little kids go, "Mama," I was like, "Oh no, get them to their mama," or get their mom.
Yeah.
They're stuck. So that's really tragic that you can't get through the earth veil and go on and be with your loved ones for whatever reason.
I think a lot of people do, and a lot of people,
Yeah.
our spirits can't. And that's where my approach is very different, because I'm a therapist
Right,
and I'm a
right,
healer.
right.
So I believe in if someone needs help, that I'm going to try to help not only the living but the dead,
Right.
the people that are spirits that just need healing as
Right,
well, and
right.
acknowledgement,
Right.
and a cleansing, because we are a bag of energy and water. And Einstein,
What a great way to put it,
right,
but it's true.
Einstein says, we are electricity, and electricity never dies. It just
Right,
moves.
right.
It never goes away.
Right.
So you think there's DNA in everything, in our energy, and I firmly believe this with my whole heart and soul, that there is life after death, and that our energy just moves. Like,
Right.
we will graduate to,
Yeah. Well, it says energy is neither created nor destroyed, something like that. So
Yeah.
that's Einstein. Was that Einstein?
Yes.
Said, hey, it's there. So where does the energy go? When you do die. So yeah, it exists in some form. My step grandson, and I think I may have said this on the show, told me once at a party when he was 2.5, that you left. I didn't see you for a long time, and I'm like, I was just here in October, but for a little one, maybe that is a long time. It was November, Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Like, maybe he felt that was forever. He didn't see his grandmother. I'm sorry, Blake. I was here 3 weeks ago for Mama's party. He goes, not now. And I'm like, and he says, in the before time, don't you remember? I'm like, and then he goes like this, I was this big. Well, that says energy to me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
When you went away, I'm like, oh, guilt for something else I did. One of those stuff. But he said, that's okay. We're here together again now. And out of the mouth of a 2-year-old who has no
Right.
knowledge of energy, who has no knowledge of the afterlife, reincarnation, anything like that.
So
It's
here's a good
amazing.
explanation, because when we are children and we grow up between when we're born until we're 7, 8 years old, we're in what we call a theta state, which is a hypnotic state, where we're absorbing information, right? And so children are very creative. They don't have critical thinking, and so they are more able to pick up on things and be creative and hear voices and be like, oh, this is how it is. From 7 to 27, we start to develop our prefrontal cortex. So that's when all of a sudden the critical brain starts coming in, and also messages from oh, you didn't hear that, oh, that's silly, and we're getting schooled out and preached out of things that we picked up as children when magic was real when we were children, right?
That's a good way of putting it.
And I do believe magic is still real.
Yeah.
So the whole idea is to unlearn what we learned, and the biggest way to do that is what we call theta state. And theta state is between when we first were waking consciousness, where we're like, oh, I'm waking up, and oh, I'm going to sleep. And that is the most important time when you can manifest things and you can do self-hypnosis or do creative visualization. That is when we are in that state. And that's what most people, that is the state I try to get myself into when I'm trying to tap into my, subconscious and the psychic and all my senses.
You can do that through meditation too, not just before or after, or
right,
when you
meditation,
wake up.
yeah.
Meditation, yeah.
And that's what meditation really is.
Right,
it's called
right.
theta.
Theta.
Yeah.
Like your brain waves are different. Your
Right,
brain waves
exactly.
are different.
That's what the theta wave is,
Okay.
and that's why a lot of children are very psychic and pick up on things, and then, that's the whole goal. And that's what I like to tell people is that we all have this ability, just like we all have the ability to go to the gym and get buff. But it's all what you focus on will expand.
Well, I had somebody say to me, I won't name the name, don't open your mind. I'm like, don't open my mind. I was practicing meditation with a very developed person, and I don't know why I saw this. It did scare me a little bit. Eyes, different eyes, different colors, different color people, different color eyes, different, coming at me. So I'm backing up. But they said, oh, don't open. And I often wondered, was that eyes of people who were trying to get my attention, or was that just, my mind? But that don't open your mind up. Just, it said everything about that person. Don't open your mind up.
There's a lot of people out there that are just
right.
They
and I
just
thought
are
I
so
wouldn't
closed.
I couldn't even answer them. I was like, don't open your mind.
That's crazy.
So it was creepy too. It's like, well, they were very rigid. Religiously rigid, and rigid in their life too. But if you're going to start offering this therapy, you want to tell everybody where they can get a hold of you and how they can get a hold of you, and
yes, so,
how to come prepared.
Yep.
To have your brain picked.
Jenabeth Rush at AOL.com. And I have a Facebook page, Jenabeth Rush, licensed professional counselor.
Is it Jenna, and is it all together, or is it Jena?
Jenabeth.
Jena, okay.
Beth. Rush. And
Okay.
My phone number is 860-883-9512.
Now, do you do, during COVID, I know everybody had to do Zoom. You do in person now? Are you starting to be able to do in person, or are you still doing?
I'm mostly doing telehealth.
Everybody still is. My doctor's still doing it for follow-up, yeah.
With this induced after-death communication, it's going to be very different, and I will be figuring out how that's going to work, because it's intense. It's grief therapy. It's helping people tap into really getting in touch with their loved ones, because some people are very stuck in their grief, and they're going to be able to really work through that. And it's very intense therapy, but I think it's going to be more than. A lot of my patients have gone to see psychics and mediums, and that's great, but this is so that they can just do this themselves.
They can do the work, because the psychic medium tells you what they see.
Yes, they are going, my patient is going to be able to do that themselves and really pick up on messages themselves, and I'm so excited to be able to offer this.
And when are you going to start that by?
In March.
In March, okay.
Next month.
So anybody who feels that they need extra help and would be interested in helping yourself and training yourself on how to get in touch with your loved ones, please keep this in mind. This will be running, this is February, probably in March, so if you want to tune in, it'll also be scrolled probably on the bottom of the screen, her information and her numbers, and I hope it helps people, because it's terrible to struggle with grief over the long term. It's destructive. It's very destructive, and we tend to do it for a long time. So if you have tools that you can help yourself, that's a wonderful way to help yourself. So I appreciate you coming. I had a blast at lunch, but I appreciate you so much coming. We got to do this again at lunch. And Jenabeth will be back. We've got the gentleman who was here that trained under the Warrens. It'd be interesting for the two of them to meet in about a month, I think. So I think it's a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming.
Thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Oh, listen, let's make lunch plans later.
Absolutely.